continues as she soars up the list for the highest paid female athlete in all of sports, destroying everyone in the WNBA. She clearly easily topped that list. Nobody else even made it on that side. Nobody else from the WNBA even made it.
Sportico just dropped their bombshell highest paid athletes report. And let me tell you, this thing is causing absolute chaos in the WNBA world right now. They're naming Caitlin Clark as the highest paid WNBA player at a staggering $16.1 million. And A'ja Wilson, she's absolutely losing her mind over this, and I mean completely losing it. Here's what's really getting under Wilson's skin. She didn't even make the list, not even close. While Clark's out here raking in those massive six-figure speaking fees and securing multi-million-dollar endorsement deals from powerhouse brands like Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, and Wilson's Sporting Goods, A'ja's throwing another one of her now infamous public tantrums that we've all come to expect from her.
Indiana Fever superstar Caitlin Clark saw a dramatic change in her earnings during her second WNBA season. This is a season that she barely even played. She played like 13 games. That was disappointing for all of us. So, you know, that's that. Clark was sidelined for most of the year with injuries, playing just 13 games for the Indiana Fever. After being named 2024 WNBA Rookie of the Year, Clark averaged 17 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, while the Fever managed to win the WNBA Commissioner's Cup title game and advance to the semifinals of the WNBA playoffs without her in the lineup. That did not stop the 23-year-old from continuing to make history.
Remember when Wilson made that bold claim that she makes the exact same speaking fees as Clark? Yeah, well, here's the brutal reality check that's about to expose everything. No major company has ever publicly bragged about booking Wilson for their high-profile events, and that's telling you everything you need to know about her actual market value. Meanwhile, corporations are literally lining up around the block, fighting each other to pay Clark at least $100,000 just to show up and speak at their events. That's not a basketball appearance fee. That's serious corporate keynote speaker money right there. Before we dive deep into breaking down all these shocking numbers and exposing exactly why Wilson's claims don't match reality, let us know down in the comments what you think is the real reason Wilson didn't make this prestigious list, despite the WNBA constantly pushing her as their supposed superstar who should be leading the conversation about league success.
Caitlin Clark, I'm sure you saw, just became the all-time scoring leader in women's college basketball. I'm curious, where would you rank her amongst all-time college players in your opinion?
Ooh, that's tough because you got to win one. I feel like that college is one of those spaces where you got to win one for them to even have your name in the conversation. And it took me 3 years to win mine, so it's hard.
Wilson's champion. The numbers don't lie. And honestly, they're absolutely brutal and devastating for A'ja Wilson when you re-break them down. Sportico released their highly anticipated annual highest paid athletes report, and Caitlin Clark sits there comfortably at a mind-blowing $16.1 million in total earnings for team. That's not a typo, people. We're talking about real money that completely changes the game for women's professional basketball. Clark's financial empire spans so far beyond her modest $70,000 WNBA salary with the Indiana Fever that it's almost laughable to even mention the league's salary in the same conversation. Her off-court endorsement deals absolutely dwarf her basketball paycheck by over 200 times, creating this massive revenue stream that Wilson can only dream about while she's sitting there complaining on social media about not getting the recognition she thinks she deserves.
I kept thinking the best player in the league should have her own shoe, not just about shoes.
You think?
Yes. Right? I want to get your thoughts on that.
Because you don't need my thoughts. You already know my thoughts.
But that's how young kids, you know, when you're a fan of LeBron, you're a fan of A'ja. I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
She needs her own shoe. Let me answer that. She is the two-time MVP. I'll toot her horn because she won't. Olympic gold medalist, best defensive player, 2 years running. Her team, stop.
Clark's endorsement portfolio reads like a who's who directory of major corporations that actually matter in the business world. Nike locked her into that absolutely historic $28 million deal, which became the richest sponsorship contract ever given to a women's basketball player in the history of the sport. Gatorade wanted her youthful energy and authentic appeal to connect with younger athletes who are just starting their sports journey. State Farm recognized her incredible ability to represent family values and reliability, the kind of wholesome image that makes parents trust a brand with their insurance needs. Wilson's Sporting Goods saw her as the perfect ambassador for their basketball equipment line, someone who could actually move products and influence purchasing decisions. But here's what makes this even more impressive. These aren't just basketball-only partnerships that limit her to sports audiences. These companies view Clark as a legitimate global influencer who transcends sports entirely and reaches demographics that most athletes never touch.
Asia Wilson is her name. Quote, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race."
Wilson's brand partnerships tell a completely different and honestly pretty sad story when you compare the two. She's essentially limited to her Nike deal, which she literally had to fight tooth and nail to secure after years of campaigning. Wilson had to play every single card in her playbook, including making it about race and social justice issues, to pressure Nike into giving her what she felt she deserved. And that's basically it. That's her entire major endorsement portfolio right there. No Gatorade deal, no State Farm partnership, no crossover brands seeing any real value in her personality or marketability. The earning gap between these two players reveals absolutely everything about their respective market values and why corporations make the decisions they make.
Did you see how many people showed up to watch Caitlin Clark play golf? With actual attention economics at play, Caitlin's participation in any league has an existential bearing. Nobody outside of Asia herself cares about whether Asia shows up.
Clark's $16.1 million represents legitimate corporate investment in her brand power and genuine fan appeal that translates to actual sales and customer acquisition. Companies aren't just buying her basketball skills when they write these massive checks. They're buying her proven ability to move products, attract new customers to their brand, and represent their company values in a way that resonates with diverse audiences. Wilson remains completely dependent on her basic WNBA salary and that single Nike partnership that she had to campaign for publicly. She's essentially trapped in basketball-only endorsements that limit her earning potential, while Clark operates as a full-scale business empire that generates revenue from multiple industries and continues expanding into new markets every single month.
That's crazy because literally nobody asked, and sources close to Asia Wilson decided to answer anyway.
Here's what really stings for Wilson, and you can see why this is eating her alive from the onion. She didn't even make Sportico's prestigious highest paid list, despite being a former WNBA MVP and champion who should theoretically have the credentials to demand major corporate partnerships. A player with her resume getting completely ignored and left off the list while Clark dominates every single conversation about athlete earnings and marketability has got to be absolutely devastating to her ego. Wilson's social media has been suspiciously quiet since these numbers dropped, which is actually pretty unusual for someone who typically has something to say about everything happening in women's basketball. But if you know her past patterns of behavior, another public meltdown is definitely brewing behind the scenes, and it's probably going to be bigger than anything we've seen before.
Here it says, in Sportico's year-end list of highest paid female athletes of 2025, Clark ranks 6th overall, earning a combined $16.1 million in 2025 from salary, winnings, and endorsements. It represents a $5 million increase from 2024 when she placed number 10 with 11.1. So we up 5 M's in an injury-riddled season. This is legit, man. Am I surprised? No. I mean, it's the GOAT. It's the GOAT. I'm not.
She simply cannot handle being overshadowed by Clark's incredible success, especially when the financial evidence is this overwhelming and undeniable. Major brands see Clark as someone who grows entire markets and brings positive, inspiring energy to their advertising campaigns and corporate messaging. Wilson's well-documented history of controversy and negative campaigning has essentially blacklisted her from the corporate world, where executives want nothing to do with athletes who create problems instead of solutions. Companies want brand ambassadors who inspire people and make them feel good about purchasing their products, not athletes who create division, drama, and uncomfortable conversations that might hurt sales or damage brand reputation.
6. So there you have it. She finished number 6. There is not another women's basketball player on this list. So when y'all try to have these nonsense conversations about who's the face of women's basketball, I mean, come on. It's not rocket science. This is not hard to figure out. Caitlin Clark is the face of female of the WNBA clearly, but Caitlin Clark's damn near the face of basketball, period. Male and
Clark builds bridges between different communities and brings people together through her positive messaging, while Wilson seems to burn down every relationship and opportunity that comes her way through her toxic behavior patterns. The earning gap isn't just about basketball talent or even individual statistics. It's about character, authentic marketability, and the ability to represent major brands in a consistently positive light that drives business results. This financial domination by Clark connects directly to Wilson's long-standing pattern of jealousy and targeted attacks that actually started way back during their college careers, long before they ever shared the same professional league. This financial domination by Clark that we're seeing today connects directly to Wilson's toxic behavior and jealousy pattern that actually started way back during their college years, long before they ever shared the same professional league or competed directly against each other. Wilson's targeting of Clark began years before they shared the same professional league, and it reveals a level of insecurity that goes much deeper than normal competitive rivalry between elite athletes. Back when Clark was absolutely tearing up college basketball at Iowa and putting up numbers that had never been seen before in women's college sports, Wilson was already throwing shade and making negative comments from her perch at South Carolina, where she was supposed to be focused on her own team's success. Wilson specifically questioned Clark's greatness and legitimacy as a top player because she didn't win a national championship during her college career. That criticism might sound reasonable on the surface, until you dig into the actual circumstances and supporting cast that each player had access to during their respective college careers. Clark led Iowa to back-to-back national championship games, with a roster that consisted mostly of role players and limited recruiting talent that couldn't match up with the elite programs they were facing in March Madness. She carried that team's entire offensive load, almost single-handedly, often scoring over 30 points per game while simultaneously creating scoring opportunities for teammates who weren't even close to five-star recruit-level talent. Clark's supporting cast at Iowa included solid, hard-working players who maximized their potential, but nobody who was destined for WNBA stardom or could take over games when she needed help. She was literally doing everything for that team: scoring, facilitating, rebounding, and keeping Iowa competitive against programs with far superior talent and recruiting classes. Meanwhile, Wilson's championship run at South Carolina tells a completely different story that exposes the hypocrisy of her criticism. She played alongside multiple future WNBA players and competed with a roster absolutely stacked with highly ranked recruits who could contribute at an elite level. Wilson didn't need to carry the entire team on her shoulders, because she had legitimate help at every single position on the court. South Carolina recruited at an elite level year after year, consistently bringing in top-tier talent that made Wilson's job significantly easier than what Clark was dealing with at Iowa. The irony becomes absolutely obvious when you compare their individual impact on their respective programs and what they accomplished with the resources available to them. Clark nearly won a national championship while being the only truly elite talent on her entire roster, using her individual brilliance to elevate lesser players and keep Iowa competitive in games where they had no business being close. Wilson won her championship as part of a dominant team effort, where multiple players could take over games and contribute at crucial moments. She needed that stacked roster to capture her title, while Clark was dragging a less talented team to heights they never should have reached. Wilson's college comments established her pattern of diminishing Clark's individual achievements by focusing exclusively on team accomplishments rather than acknowledging superior individual excellence and impact on the game. Clark's arrival in the WNBA sent Wilson into complete panic mode, and she launched multiple desperate campaigns designed to stay relevant while Clark dominated every single headline and conversation about women's basketball. Wilson's "I Have a Shoe Too" campaign became the most obvious and embarrassing example of her deep-seated insecurity about Clark's success. Every single time Clark's massive Nike partnership generated buzz in the media or on social media, Wilson would immediately post about her own signature shoe, desperately trying to remind people that she also had endorsement deals worth mentioning. She wasn't celebrating her own legitimate achievements or building her brand in a positive way. She was desperately trying to remind people that she existed in the same space as Clark and deserved equal attention. Wilson turned her social media accounts into a constant reminder that she was still relevant, instead of focusing on creating content that would actually grow her fan base or attract new partnership opportunities. The "What is delayed is not denied" campaign revealed even more desperation from Wilson that was honestly painful to watch unfold in real time. She plastered this phrase across all her social media accounts, clearly referencing her belief that she deserved the recognition and massive endorsement deals that Clark was receiving from major corporations. Wilson spent months posting these cryptic messages about delayed success and denied opportunities, and every single post felt like a direct shot at Clark's immediate success and rapidly growing brand partnerships. Wilson couldn't handle watching a rookie accomplish in just a few months what she hadn't been able to achieve in years of professional basketball. Wilson also publicly questioned Clark's Nike endorsement timing and value through carefully worded social media posts and strategic interviews with friendly media outlets. She suggested that Clark's deal came too early in her professional career and questioned whether this newcomer had actually proven herself worthy of such a massive contract from a company like Nike. Wilson's comments weren't really about basketball performance or merit. They were about her obvious frustration that brands chose Clark over veteran players who had already established themselves in the league for years. She couldn't understand why companies would invest in potential rather than proven track records. But she was missing the bigger picture about what these corporations actually valued in their brand ambassadors. Throughout Clark's incredible rookie season, Wilson deployed these subtle social media digs that were clearly designed to undermine Clark's achievements and redirect attention back to herself. When Clark broke assist records, Wilson would post about veteran accomplishments. When Clark received positive media attention, Wilson would share throwback highlights of her own past performances, always with timing that seemed suspicious to anyone paying attention. Wilson's most desperate move yet came during the Time magazine Athlete of the Year controversy that exposed her willingness to play the race card when merit-based arguments failed her. When Clark received this incredibly prestigious recognition that transcended sports entirely, Wilson immediately claimed it was a race thing rather than acknowledging Clark's incredible impact on women's sports and mainstream culture. Wilson couldn't accept that Clark had transcended basketball in ways that she never could, despite having years more experience and multiple opportunities to build that kind of crossover appeal. Instead of celebrating the fact that women's basketball was getting mainstream recognition and expanding its audience, Wilson made it about racial dynamics and tried to diminish Clark's achievement by suggesting it was undeserved. Clark approached brand building through positivity and inspiration, focusing on growing the game and connecting with fans across different demographics and backgrounds. Wilson chose negativity and controversy, focusing on tearing down others and creating division wherever she went. Companies noticed this fundamental difference immediately, and it influenced their partnership decisions in ways that Wilson still doesn't seem to understand. They wanted ambassadors who built communities and brought people together, not athletes who created problems and generated negative headlines that might hurt their brand reputation. Every single campaign Wilson launched against Clark backfired spectacularly and damaged her own brand while making Clark's star shine even brighter in comparison. Wilson claims she makes the same speaking fees as Clark, but the actual evidence tells a completely different story that exposes this as pure fantasy. Clark commands legitimate six-figure speaking engagements at major business conferences and corporate events across the country, where executives pay premium rates to hear her speak about overcoming challenges and building success in competitive environments. These aren't basketball camps or youth sports clinics. These are high-level business events, where Clark shares the stage with Fortune 500 CEOs and industry leaders who respect her business acumen. Companies actively brag about booking Clark for their events and use her name recognition to drive ticket sales and attendance. The Long Island Association Conference proudly promoted Clark's appearance, highlighting her as their keynote speaker for business leaders throughout New York. Corporate event planners announced Clark's participation months in advance, treating her like a major business figure rather than just an athlete who happens to speak occasionally. These organizations understand that Clark brings value that goes far beyond sports entertainment. Clark commands up to $100,000 per speaking appearance at corporate events, and event organizers gladly pay these rates because Clark draws crowds and delivers content that resonates with business professionals. She talks about leadership, perseverance, and building brands in competitive markets, covering topics that appeal to executives who want to learn from her success, both on and off the court. Wilson provides absolutely zero documented proof of similar corporate speaking bookings or anywhere close to these fee levels. She's never been featured as a keynote speaker at major business conferences, and no companies have announced Wilson appearances at leadership summits or corporate events that would command premium speaking fees. Her speaking opportunities remain confined to basketball camps and WNBA-related functions, where she earns significantly less than Clark's corporate rates. The difference in their speaking careers perfectly reflects their overall brand appeal and market value. Corporations specifically request Clark for multi-sport events and brand activations because she connects authentically with diverse audiences that extend far beyond traditional basketball fans. She appears at LPGA tournaments, where golf fans appreciate her competitive spirit and business acumen, bringing crossover appeal that benefits both sports. Youth sports camps pay premium rates for Clark because parents want their children to learn from someone who represents positive values and sustainable achievement rather than controversy and drama. Business conferences book Clark because she embodies the entrepreneurial success and positive leadership that executives admire and want to emulate in their own organizations. Clark's crossover appeal extends far beyond traditional basketball circles in ways that create multiple revenue streams. She speaks at women's leadership conferences about breaking barriers and building personal brands that transcend industry limitations. Technology companies invite Clark to discuss innovation and staying ahead of competition in rapidly changing markets. These diverse speaking opportunities generate substantial income streams that Wilson simply doesn't have access to. Because her brand remains trapped within traditional WNBA circles, Wilson's speaking fee claims were pure fantasy designed to diminish Clark's obvious market advantage and maintain her ego in conversations about earning power. She couldn't provide examples of corporate events or documented speaking fees because they simply don't exist at the level she was claiming. The business world has spoken with their wallets, and the verdict is absolutely devastating for Wilson's claims about her market value. Corporate decision-makers evaluate potential brand ambassadors through multiple factors including audience appeal, growth potential, and brand safety, and Wilson fails almost every test that matters to major companies looking for long-term partnerships. Clark attracts endorsement deals across different industries because she represents growth, positivity, and market expansion that directly benefits their bottom line. Wilson remains stuck with her single Nike partnership because her brand carries too much risk for companies focused on broad audience, appearance, and positive brand associations. Clark's positive brand associations make her incredibly valuable to corporations seeking authentic ambassadors who can represent their values without creating controversy or negative publicity. She represents leadership through her proven ability to elevate entire teams and organizations, making her perfect for companies that want to associate with winners and positive role models. Companies see real growth potential when they partner with Clark because she consistently expands market reach and brings new customers into their ecosystem through her influence and authentic appeal. Her inspirational messaging resonates with diverse demographics simultaneously, making her perfect for brands targeting families, young athletes, and business professionals all at the same time. Wilson's negative patterns create exactly the opposite effect for potential corporate partners who want to avoid controversy at all costs. Her tendency toward public disputes and playing the victim makes companies extremely nervous about long-term partnerships that might generate negative headlines. Corporate marketing teams actively avoid athletes who create divisive conversations among consumers or generate controversy that might hurt sales. Wilson's history of creating drama represents everything that companies try to avoid when selecting brand ambassadors for major campaigns and partnerships. Clark's global appeal transcends basketball in ways that corporate executives find incredibly valuable for expanding their market reach. She speaks at business conferences, appears at LPGA events, and connects with audiences who might never watch a WNBA game, but respect her as a successful entrepreneur and positive role model. Her crossover success proves that she can represent brands across multiple industries and customer segments effectively, which is exactly what companies pay premium rates to access. Wilson's brand remains narrow and divisive, limiting her appeal to traditional basketball audiences, who already follow the WNBA closely. She hasn't demonstrated the ability to connect with business professionals, families, or casual sports fans who don't follow women's basketball regularly. Companies need ambassadors who can grow their customer base and reach new markets, not athletes who only appeal to existing fans who are already familiar with their sport and accomplishments. Corporate executives understand brand safety better than anyone, and Wilson represents significant risk while Clark represents pure opportunity for business growth and positive brand association. Companies invest millions in brand partnerships specifically to grow their business and improve their reputation among target demographics. Wilson's pattern of creating controversy and negative headlines makes her a liability for brands trying to build positive associations with their products and services. Clark's ability to grow entire markets sets her apart from traditional athlete endorsers, who might only appeal to existing sports fans. Her presence in women's basketball expanded television audiences, increased merchandise sales, and brought new sponsors into the sport who had never considered women's basketball partnerships before. Companies recognize that Clark doesn't just represent their brand passively. She actively grows their business through her influence and authentic appeal to new customer segments. Wilson's tendency to create division and controversy has the opposite effect on business development, turning off potential customers and creating uncomfortable associations for brands trying to maintain positive reputations. Her public complaints and negative campaigns generate exactly the kind of publicity that companies pay millions to avoid. Clark's endorsement success creates a positive cycle that attracts even more brands wanting to partner with proven market movers who deliver results. Wilson's tantrum about the highest paid list perfectly captures exactly why she'll never reach Clark's level of success and marketability, no matter how much she complains about unfair treatment or lack of recognition. Her jealousy and toxic behavior patterns have poisoned her brand reputation, while Clark builds a global empire through positivity and genuine connection with fans across multiple demographics. Companies choose Clark because she represents growth, inspiration, and positive values that align with their brand messaging and business objectives. They actively avoid Wilson because she represents division, controversy, and negative publicity that could damage their reputation and hurt their bottom line. Clark continues expanding her influence across multiple industries and market segments, while Wilson remains trapped in her own negativity and bitter resentment. The financial gap between them will only continue growing wider as more brands recognize the fundamental difference between an athlete who builds communities and brings people together versus one who tears others down and creates division wherever she goes. Let us know down in the comments why you think Wilson didn't make this prestigious list despite the WNBA constantly pushing her as their supposed superstar who should be leading conversations about league success and marketability. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out on breaking news and analysis. Click the video on your screen for more exclusive content, and we'll see you in the next one with more shocking revelations about the business side of women's professional basketball.